Creative Assembly have given us a quick update about their historical Total War titles. Yes, titles. In case you're unaware, Creative Assembly have 3 historical projects in the works. The first project, and the one we'll hear about first, is a DLC for a previous historical title. This is the first time Creative Assembly have gone back to a title once they've released a new one, so it's kind of uncharted territory for them. They've described this DLC as a campaign expansion, and it's probably the biggest historical one CA's done. They've also been working on it for the best part of a year, and don't have long to go with testing underway and nearly all of the content in. For frame of reference, a pack like the Hannibal at the Gates pack or Caesar and Gaul seems to have taken about 2 to 3 months to make. I've no idea the size of team that's working on this DLC, but the fact they've been working on it for so long shows that it will be something quite big. And like I mentioned, it's going to be the next Total War announcement. This means that it's probably very, very soon. No doubt Creative Assembly are working on some DLC for Total War Warhammer 2 to hit in time for Christmas, and maybe even something sooner, but this historical DLC is the next announcement, so I'd expect to see it in a week or 2. As for what it is, it's anybody's guess. However, a developer from the team stated that there's a lot of people still playing this particular game. Now ultimately you can spin that for any of the Total War games. There's no definition for what a lot of people is, but the historical game that has the most players is currently Total War Rome 2. So as a business it would make the most sense to deal with one of the most recent titles and one of the titles with the most players. Attila still has strong numbers in its own right, and it's entirely possible that we could be getting another Charlemagne-sized expansion for that game, maybe this time going back to when the Roman Empire split into its 2 parts. We'll have to see. A nice addition that was mentioned was that the game will be getting a particularly large big free update that apparently tackles a whole area of the game. This again could be anything. If we're talking about Rome 2, a highly requested feature was a family tree or a better implementation of politics, as it was sorely missed from the release. It could also be a rework of naval combat, as this was also something that was recognized as not fully working as intended, or who knows, maybe even a more interesting multiplayer mode, bringing over something like free-for-all like they did in Warhammer 2. Honestly, almost every aspect of Rome 2 could be improved in some way, so it'll be interesting to see what they focus on. If the game we're talking about is Attila, honestly I'm not sure about what particular aspects of game need that much improvement. Apart from naval combat and the performance of the game, politics and religion could probably be fooled around with here also, though I feel like mechanically Attila on the campaign is extremely solid. It's just when it came to battles I felt like it was lacking in pacing and real diversity between the factions. That's really all they had to say about the DLC. Not much information was shared, but this blog is clearly setting up for some sort of announce and trying to grab historical fans' attention now that Warhammer 2 is out. The next project the blog mentions is a standalone spin-off title, a Total War saga. This seems like a title that works off of one of the previous games' old tech, but creates a new game out of it. So you can assume that the game will look old and probably come in at a cheaper price point, at least I would hope so. They reaffirmed that they're releasing this after the DLC project, so it won't be too soon, and we're so close to the end of the year that I'd have to imagine it being an early next year announcement. Typically January isn't a time to release a game, so my guess is February on this one, though we might get the announce in January or maybe even sooner. Not much more information was really divulged, other than it being a Follow the Samurai sized game. They say it's an extension or magnification of the previous game's time period, so there's crossover in assets or tech. The team is being led by Jack Lusted, who was the director for Age of Charlemagne and had a heavy hand in Follow the Samurai, so I think the title is in great hands. Lastly, we have the third project, of which there is even less to say about. Basically, the team is making great strides with motion capture and getting city layouts to come together in the game. Hopefully we have surroundable cities again, or something to that effect. There's also a slight mention that the number 3 for a title isn't out of the question when they're thinking of their next game. Honestly, this can only really point to a Medieval 3 in general, and of course we know we're getting a Warhammer 3, so CA aren't Valve. We will be seeing more titles tackle our favourite eras as time goes on. So that's really it for the news on these games. Expect that I'll be covering all the news, the announce, and reviewing the DLC itself when it arrives on the scene. Let me know what you think this DLC could be, and also what games or features you'd like to see reworked or overhauled in one of the previous games. There's always the possibility that they're going even further back to Shogun 2 or even further, so who knows what we're in store for. That's all for me in this video. It's a quick short one as so many were asking about it. Obviously it's hard for me to talk about this stuff given my history, but I actually don't know when these things are being announced, and I never saw any trailers for them or anything, so I'm going to be really enjoying guessing and reacting to what we're seeing with you. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.